Okay, moving on. Uh, what's essentially become a sex site, OnlyFans,
Oh yeah, I
has
saw this.
recently said they're going to ban explicit content. Like, you can show nudity, but you can't have sexually explicit content. And basically, this seems to be stemming from like bank pressure that they're not
That
going to
that's what I heard.
process.
Yeah.
Right, they're not going to process transactions from this site anymore. And they've come out publicly and said they're not going to support these sexually explicit content, and they're going to block it. And what's interesting, if you look back at Tumblr, like the same thing happened to them. They created this huge amount of content. They created this big system, incredibly profitable, and they sold for, it was like $1.1 billion. It was a huge number, right? And whoever bought it was put on like the same thing happened, and they had to come out as like, we're going to ban explicitly sexual content. And like a number of years later, like whoever bought it sold it for like, I forgot what it was. It's like $1 or $3 million. So can you imagine buying something for $1 billion and selling it for like a few $1 million? It's just like, obviously, this is where your audience is. This is where your content providers are. And somehow banks are interfering with this
That is
significantly enough to destroy your entire business.
that is such BS, because these same banks are doing the same thing with marijuana as well. So like, they don't want you using credit cards. You have to use only cash for marijuana. And at the same time, you have Deutsche Bank supporting terrorists who have money in their banks, and they're actually like, using money, funneling it through them to
Right.
act on terrorism.
I've been trying to think about this, and the thing is, if you think, well, it's a bit confusing because they're both gigantic industries. I want to say porn is like 30% of the internet, right?
Yeah.
It's gigantic. It's like, why don't you want to be this? You don't want to have this as part of your business, but like, well, there's so many things here. Like, we're gonna have to circle back, because at some point, if we talk about terrorism, we have to talk about the withdrawal from Afghanistan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, we've announced we're gonna withdraw, and already, the Taliban has taken what, like 75% of the country? I don't even know. It's ridiculous. Like,
That was going to happen no matter how long we stayed there, though.
Yeah, that's true. It was just inevitable.
right. I do feel like it was inevitable, and that our being there was completely idiotic.
Resource driven, man. I think so.
I think you're right, because if you look at this, like your Lockheed Martins, like all these defense companies, they pay millions of dollars to congressmen to to make these billions of dollars, to have all this war funding passed to them. But it's just crazy. So I'm kind of wondering if like the porn industry really, what they're lacking is a good lobby, right? You need to lobby. You need to start paying congressmen, and you're probably, all your problems are going to go away.
Well, I got to say, I don't really understand the stance of the banks either, because the other thing
Well, it's a ton of money. Why are you doing this?
Well, what I don't understand, so remember this, several months ago, Pornhub had to basically purge like all,
Right,
like a ton of their videos,
Yeah.
and that was driven by the banks as well, because the banks is like, you have all these users who, like unverified users who could be uploading like, child porn or, things like
Right.
that. And so they're like, we're not going to do business with you unless you have more of a control on who's uploading videos. So that was their reasoning behind that. And so, yeah, they purged like a shit ton of their videos. And then basically you have to go through some sort of process to be able to upload.
To validate, right?
So if that's their standard with Pornhub, they're obviously willing to do business with a sexually explicit company. So why isn't their standard with OnlyFans, like, as long as you're not putting child porn on.
Well, I think that is the fear. Like in the department, you have the fear that underage girls are being taken advantage of. You also have the fear that in the industry there are just women being taken advantage of, like like the slavery issue or the those issues. And if you think about it, those issues probably are very hard to single out. They're hard to eradicate. They're hard to deal with in general as far as data goes. And you probably have a lot of pressure from the civilian population to deal with those issues. And so I think that's probably a large part of why we're seeing this.
It just, to me, even if OnlyFans does this, I mean, maybe we should make the next OnlyFans and find a bank that'll actually deal with this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the thing. Someone's going to fill this gap.
The void. Yeah.
Right. That's a terrible. That's obviously going to be like, people are going to be filling this hole in the market.
By the way, how many people actually like? It's not like people. The populace is putting pressure on the banks. Like most people don't give a shit who their bank is doing business.
Yeah, why?
The thing is, there are groups.
Are there?
There are definitely religious groups. There's definitely like people.
But
who
you're
are,
giving the squeaky wheel the grease in this scenario.
right. But I mean that does happen very frequently in politics and in life, and people. I mean, I'm very offended by the idea of child pornography.
Well, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
is. But the thing is, like, trying to eradicate it is also a very difficult problem. And if your website, just like, they say, well, if we just don't give you, if we don't bank with you, if we don't take your transactions, well, obviously, we've completely eliminated the problem from our end.
I mean, it's just a simple, checks and balances, You got to make sure that the people who sign up are who they say they are, like you can do that with DoorDash.
I mean, that's obviously the problem, but I don't think it is that simple. I mean, there's so many crazy people in the world, and there's so many abusive people in the world. It is like, can you tell necessarily the difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old?
No.
Can you necessarily tell the difference between someone who's being used sexually and someone who's doing this of their own free will? There are lines, and it's very hard to tell sometimes, I think. And there are obviously people in the world who are shitty enough that you can't tell, necessarily straight out what the problem is.
But I mean, aren't all to an extent like I still don't know how Pornhub exactly like ensures this doesn't happen. I guess if they have everyone as a registered user, if they find a video, they can trace it back to a particular person.
Some of them
but
I know that they have adapted like verification procedures. Like, you send a verification video. Maybe you pay a charge via credit card, which obviously you're 18 to get a credit card.
Why can't they just do the same thing with OnlyFans? Verify all their users.
I mean, there's probably a lot of potential there. It's just I really don't know. But yeah, it seems like they're really killing their fan base. And I mean, if you look, like I said, if you look at Tumblr, sold for 1.1 billion and down to like 1 or 3 million. It's. I mean, they're probably going to destroy the company.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, all these people.
I mean, that's what that company's. I've never been to OnlyFans, right. But that's what OnlyFans is known for.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose there are people on there that don't do sexually explicit content, but like that's what when I hear of OnlyFans, it's always in that context.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as a company, what the fuck do you do? What the fuck do you do?
But I feel sorry for like legitimate people on there because like there's people like maybe even like former porn stars.
There's people making $6K a year easy on there.
Because you know how we've talked about how like Mia Khalifa did all shit ton of like porn. The porn companies made millions off of her, but she just made like hardly anything.
Right.
Like I don't know if she has an OnlyFans account.
She
but
does.
You know if she does, like she's actually now making bank, and she should, I guess.
Yeah, it's her content.
Well, reading some of these articles, they charge like 20%, so the other 80% goes to the
Which is
performer.
yeah, okay.
Which, I mean, that's not surprising.
It's better than what they were getting.
I mean, I think Amazon charges more than that to sell your product. So,
But there's like a million of these like chat with a woman that's topless kind of sites or whatever. Like, is there no bank going through those?
The thing is, they're not big enough yet.
Oh, so OnlyFans is just getting the attention because they're so popular?
They're big. They're like they're on like Tumblr. They're a $1 billion company. They're starting to get attention. They're starting to, they're creating these issues.
Now, people can post naked pictures on Twitter. Are they going to get the same thing happening to them?
Well, the thing is, OnlyFans is going to allow nudity. And Twitter allows nudity, but they also allow pornography. And Twitter is one of the few like big ones that actually allows pornographic content.
I'm wondering if they're going to eventually like.
I mean, you could see it. I really don't know.
Although I guess there's not really that much money transactions. On Twitter.
There aren't there's everything on Twitter is more indirect. I feel like
it's like ad based,
right?
Marketing and stuff. Yeah.
On OnlyFans, you can have subscribers.
Right.
You can have, and so they're threatening to block some of those subscriber payments through Visa or MasterCard, and kind of destroy it that way.
Now, aren't there, porn sites, besides, Pornhub that people can subscribe to and pay some sort of fee to that haven't done what they do, where they just have verified users?
I mean, I'm sure.
Or maybe Pornhub were just so big compared to the other ones that they got
I mean, it's gigantic.
Singled out or whatever.
So it's obviously a business struggle. And tying your business to anything that's as risky as that it kind of sucks.